Hello, my name is Andre V, and I'm the founder of the Parcel Locker Center. My today's guest is Mike Richmond. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Andre. How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. It's been years I've been waiting for this kind of discussion with you because I think we know already for 6, 7 more years, and we have always been there if there is a talk about out-of-home delivery.
Yeah. It's an area I'm extremely fond of.
Absolutely, Mike. You are VP of Doddler, now part of the Blue Yonder Group, and you have been dealing with out of home almost whole your career. But you know what? That I asked ChatGPT to investigate you and to make you give us most popular keywords for what is related to it. Do you have a guess what were the most popular keyword that is related to you?
PUDO maybe, returns maybe. I don't know. My
This is
kids would be
exactly
proud of
why.
the postman.
This is exactly my guess also that this must be two of them, but actually this is sustainability.
Okay,
So this is the
that's
most
good.
used keywords around your name and your discussions. But probably this means that you also see out of home as a sustainable delivery method.
Yeah, it's not actually been my whole career, but I joined Doddle 10 years ago, or just over 10 years ago. And I was a lawyer in my first job. That was my first sort of career. And then I changed out of that to something very different. And the thing that was I loved about Doddle, and the first incarnation of what Doddle was it was an out-of-home delivery network in the UK that allowed you to buy anything from any retailer through any carrier and pick it up in one location. And the story was, we shortened the final mile. There are such supply chain efficiencies and consolidation benefits of getting 5 items from 5 different retailers through 5 different carriers in one place at a UK train station. It was so logical and so sensible and also so sustainable. Like, I passionately believed at the time, like, if we can reduce the van miles on the road and improve the customer experience at the same time, why shouldn't this work? And for those of you who know the story, we could make Doddle work as a standalone retail business in the UK, but we evolved that business to being a technology business and then support posts globally with the same ambition.
Sure, this is definitely be seeing that you are started with a PUDOs and now talking about lockers also talking about still the same sustainability claim. There are many people against that the out of home saying that if customer drive to have their parcel from a PUDO or out-of-home location, then this is less sustainable than home delivery. What is your take on that? Do customer really sort of make special trip on every parcel they are having?
Yeah, you and I have engaged in some of those debates on LinkedIn, and I enjoy them. And I think sometimes I learn from them quite a lot because you see things from your own perspective, and actually being challenged is a good thing. Again, go back to logic. If I lived in an urban area where out of home has a higher take-up, more of my travel is likely to be through public transport means. If I live in central London or central Paris or central Warsaw, and I'm using either public transport means or I'm closer to a locker because they're in slipper distance or this kind of close proximity, then the van has to drive fewer miles to do a PUDO delivery than a home delivery because they can consolidate. That makes sense. And there's the whole logic around the chain tripping. If, however, I am living in a remote area or I'm taking my car to do a dedicated trip to that locker and therefore it's a two-way trip for me, I also understand that it's not more sustainable. So I don't think we can be absolute in either. It's an it depends answer. But I think if we continue to grow out-of-home delivery in those highly densely populated urban areas, and cities are increasingly regulating car traffic and reducing the amount of single dedicated trips that we make, like London, no one drives in London anymore. No one drives in Paris anymore. The infrastructure for doing those trips is now, it makes it so difficult, and research regulation around. In London, we have this thing called ULEZ, the ultra low emission zone. There is a congestion charge if you drive your car in the centre of London in certain times. Like, it's becoming more difficult to drive in those cities, and therefore more of those trips are on public transport, and therefore I think there will be a growth in out-of-home delivery in those areas and a corresponding benefit from a sustainability perspective.
Yes, and what I also think that It's very much about the designing your out-of-home network. If you place your PUDO or parcel locker to the remote destination where every customer has to take 5 kilometer leg to that, then for sure this is not tenable. But this is the magic of planning out-of-home network. You have to be close, whether on commuting roads or close to home, to the customers, so that there will be no additional legs for them.
Yeah, like we're creatures of habit as consumers. We're on a slightly different angle. We're working with a UK grocer at the moment, one of the big UK grocery chains. They sell clothing. They have a very large clothing business, which is a supermarket. They sell their own brand clothing line. And I use it as an example because they have a high returns rate because it's online clothing. 95% of their returns happen in store. So only 5%. And that's because 30,000 customers a week go into those stores, and the customers are basically planning their journey around that visit back to the store. So because they put the infrastructure, because the customers go and the customers plan and they do things they will always do, they're creatures of habit. The idea that a customer is going to make a dedicated journey to a location is only if we haven't designed the network right or put the capabilities and infrastructure in the right place so that you can do that as part of doing other things.
Exactly. So my favorite parcel lockers are in front of my grocery store. I visit usually twice a week, anyhow, without the parcels that are on it, and I don't make even one step additionally to get the parcel from there, because this is on my commuting route.
Yeah, and that's why the grocery stores, in my view, are like the cream of the crop. One of the most popular PUDO destinations you see. Like in the UK, you go to Morrison's, there is an InPost locker, there is an Amazon locker, there may be a DPD service over the counter. You go to Tesco, you have every working with Tesco, you have InPost working with Tesco, like the grocery chains, because they have that habitual footfall and that chain trip effect that I see the locker and I therefore know that I can use it next time, or I can drop off my return there, whatever it might be. I think that's why grocery lockers are so beneficial. And then going back to sustainability, if I'm going to that store anyway, then it is a more sustainable journey because that driver hasn't had to come as a dedicated delivery to my house.
This is exactly my advice also to every parcel locker operator, is that you have to place the locker where people are, not in the place where you have the location agreement. So this is the essence of the out-of-home delivery.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But still, what ChatGPT got right was the second keyword, and this is returns. You have been talking about returns quite a lot, and then you are probably very, very experienced on that. But I have some sort of general question. Looking for the whole Europe situation, then it seems to me that UK is the country where it's the most problematic returns situation, or this is sort of the most hot topic among retailers and carriers. So why is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Germany would have a good fight with the Brits for top spot in that. You know, there's a very high returns rate in Germany and some other markets as well. So I think returns is a very active topic right now because e-commerce growth, the growth that we've had for 20 years in e-commerce has slowed dramatically in the last few years. And when growth has slowed, people are starting to look a bit about, well, how does this model work? And they're looking at profitability as well as that growth metric. Because genuinely, we had 20 years of e-commerce growth at 10% plus year on year. And so I think that growth slowing has made people question the business models of businesses like ASOS and Boohoo and Pretty Little Thing and fast fashion businesses who were uniquely online only, and they were selling clothing online, which had a high returns rate. And if you look at the share price of those business, you'll see, hold on, these guys this is a challenge at a fundamental business model level, and a big part of that business model is predicated on fulfillment and return. You know, and if you have a 20 or 30% returns rate, a huge amount of their stock is out with customers and coming back, and it's a huge part of their cost. And so there's been a forensic focus on returns in the last few years. I've seen more innovation and development in returns in the last 12, 18 months than maybe in the previous 5 years. Because what's happening is people are being much more focused on actually what is happening in the reverse supply chain? And this kind of idea that I have free returns for all customers for 365 days is now being eroded. people are really starting to actively look at when they offer free returns, when they have pay returns, and also things like the whole PUDO point. Sorry, this is a real thing for me. The thing about PUDO is quite interesting in returns because most returns in the UK today get passed through networks as a single return. So Royal Mail or Every or Yodel or DPD, everything is a parcel, a single parcel. I'm getting charged £2 or £2.50 for that return. If I'm dropping it into a PUDO network, I'm effectively creating a B2B return, not a C2B return. This is not a single item. I have the consolidation benefit of 20 items being dropped in that locker or 50 items being dropped at that grocery store. And so what we're seeing some retailers do is challenge their carriers or look at alternative models, which is around consolidated returns. How much do I pay you for items that are coming back more slowly in a very consolidated way? And Amazon has been a real pioneer in this space. They've really driven the market to maybe move some parcels out of the traditional carrier networks on returns and look at alternative networks where those returns can be consolidated.
Before still going back to that, the returns techniques, still one general question about the returns. You mentioned also Germany, and then a sort of two theses is why in those countries returns are in high rate. And first of all, that is that the UK and Germany practice mainly free delivery models, so customers don't have to order the delivery fee included in the price. This is one thing, and second thing, in both countries, Amazon is very strong with their own sort of home delivery, pre-delivery models. So I think that those are the reasons why the returns are sort of most talked in those two countries.
Yeah, I agree. Amazon is a huge driver, but Amazon, if you try and compete with Amazon, you have no chance. I mean, they have so much more. They have revenue from Amazon Media Group, they have the media advertising business, they have Amazon Web Services. They have such a different, the playing field is not level. So other businesses shouldn't use them as the benchmark. It's because they have so much more wealth and so much more scale to be able to do this. Like the UK and Germany also, I think, have a higher. They were early into e-commerce, or earlier than maybe other European markets into e-commerce. Italy and Spain and Greece maybe were later and less developed than those European businesses. But businesses like Zalando in Germany and ASOS and Boohoo in the UK, which were purely online and fashion only, also drove a bit of this kind of free delivery, free returns, aggressive growth year on year. They even had these kind of delivery passes. So ASOS Premier is like Amazon Prime. Who has the same version where you pay £15 or €20 a year for unlimited free next day delivery and unlimited free returns. And this was a race for growth. Going back to what I said earlier, ASOS used to be a £70 share. It's now a £3.50 share. It is a 20th of the value it was at its peak. And that's because people are starting to question and challenge that model of free delivery. So I think the returns is a reflection on how the market has evolved, driven by Amazon, but also some of these fashion players. But I think we're now seeing a huge shift and a real focus on returns as people realize maybe I should be investigating and investing in this area where, the answer isn't unlimited free returns for as long as you want. I need to be much more specific at a product level and at a consumer level about how they can and should return items and what that does to my peer.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Topic about the returns technology or the process wise, then the biggest challenge there has always been how to get the label or the information to the parcel and how to make it most convenient way to the customer. So you have been choosing to sort of introduce your approach where you have introduced the drop-off boxes, or how do you call them?
Yeah, drop-off kiosks.
Tell me, what are the reasoning behind that? What is the concept? What this drop-off kiosk provides to customer compared to PUDO return or parcel locker return?
So I think there's space for everything. There's definitely no one-size-fits-all answer here, right? And the debate 3 years ago was, do you have lockers or PUDOs? I think that debate is now expanding into, do you have fixed lockers or small lockers? Do you have Bluetooth lockers or plugged-in lockers? Do you need a screen and a pin pad or no screen, no pin pad? But I think this in the middle of those two is a space, a very active space that we're seeing right now, is this idea of drop-off kiosks. The idea really is that, or the kind of core principle is that most lockers, I think you'll agree, Andre, don't have a label printer on. And they don't have a label printer on because they are typically best placed outside. And if you have a label printer and outdoor, you have all sorts of problems. I'm sure in Estonia, you had challenges around that before, where you have people trying to refill label paper or the impacts of the elements on label printers. Outdoor and label printers is a very difficult combination. As soon as you accept that principle, then you have to take the locker, that label printer, whatever form it's in, inside. And when you go inside a store, you have a very different conversation with the host, the retail network, because maybe they don't have space for a whole wall of 5 locker banks. And so what do you need? You need something that's freestanding, that's running on power and data, that has a locker but can be moved in the store, that's visible. And it's a very different conversation that, but actually this is a real problem. I want to get a label onto a parcel is essential. I think the label should be put on at the point of drop-off rather than given to all consumers, because then you have the waste of customers who don't return items. But if you take the thing that you have to have a label printer and you want to put the label on at the part of drop-off, I think indoor drop-off kiosks with a label printer is a really interesting area. We're seeing lots of innovation. And it can also be complementary to parcel lockers. We work with Amazon on this area. They are our biggest customer of drop-off kiosks, and they sit parcel drop-off boxes right next to parcel lockers. And they use the lockers for outbound, and they use the drop-off kiosks for returns. And we see big post offices having lockers that they use typically for outbound, and they're maybe in their retail units or in their convenience store network or their PUDO network using parcel drop-off kiosks alongside the store operations, because, in a Denmark or in Norway or in France maybe, when you're doing 30 or 40 parcel drop-offs per day in a retail store, suddenly the retail store starts to say, hey, this is a lot more parcel work than I was expecting to do. And maybe there is a point at which they need automation, self-service solutions to augment or support that retail store network. So it's not spending all its day doing parcel and the customer experience doesn't degrade too much. That was a really long answer, so I'm sorry. But again, we have 15 minutes and I love this area. So I just wanted to kind of make all of the points I tried to include.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's always better to talk to anybody who is very professional in its field. So yeah, this is very, very detailed and very nuanced, rich things. And again, I love the concept that the drop-off box is not a dedicated locker, but it can placed in one compartment. It's much more space reserving method. And I think still there are innovation to come because soon it can be done with a photo. Customer will take a photo of the parcel, and then parcel. This is sent to the carrier, and carrier's sorting line recognizes the picture of the parcel. Whatever innovation.
Yeah, there's some businesses doing some cool stuff in that space. The guys at Stamp Free are doing some interesting stuff. OCR and character recognition and writing numbers on parcels. I guess, and I'm super supportive of the change and innovation in that space. I guess the challenge is the infrastructure that is deployed in sorting centers is the investment in that, and the scale of that is huge. And therefore, and that is predicated on barcode reading and scanning. So to change that to do optical character recognition or different things is a big change. And so in the short term, we see more focus on investment at the drop-off location and automating and improving that experience with a label than we do in the kind of maybe the 5 or 10 year horizon of developing solutions that are, no label. Maybe like there is no label required because you've taken a photo or you've written something on the parcel, whatever it might be.
Yeah, this is an interesting area we are involved with, because there is innovation still going on and with high pace. And again, we touched already a little bit about the AI topic. That is very, very cool also in logistics. What is your take? What are you looking for the AI applications in last mile?
So actually, since we've been acquired by Blue Yonder is a big global business owned by Panasonic, multi-billion-dollar revenue, and like 8,000 employees. So a much bigger footprint than Doddler when we had 100 employees. And they're an end-to-end supply chain technology business. One of the things they've kind of really pushed us into the return space. So we're maybe less focused on outbound and traditional out-of-home sort of PUDO stuff than we were historically, and more focused on returns, and in particular how returns is important to retailers, to the retail community, because they see it as a massively underinvested area. In that world, AI has a huge amount of use cases, because if you think about the kind of the transition that we're going from, which is on one hand, every return from every customer in every market is treated the same. So ASOS has the same rules for every product, for every customer in every market, and it's free returns, and you go to a carrier. The journey and the transition we go to is every return from every product in every market is treated differently, to the point where this has no value, no retained value. I allow Andre to keep it, but if Andre moves his home location, actually the carrier cost in Italy is cheaper than the carrier cost in Estonia. Therefore, I actually do want him to send that back. It's different returns treatment, and there's almost a specific individual returns policy. Setting of those rules and that kind of configuration can be done by a human to a certain level, but actually it's going to be AI that does that and allows you to build in the configuration and the rules and the sophisticated thinking, and you'll use predictive AI to do the stuff in the first place, but then all of a sudden you'll be able to use generative AI, and businesses will be able to say, how do I reduce my returns rate by 3%? And the Gen AI will give, well, you can do this, right? You can shorten your returns window from 28 days to 14 days, or you can reduce your returns cost by driving more volume to be used through the consolidated returns network that's being provided by DPD, that is being offered by Royal Mail as a kind of individual parcel carrier. I think it's kind of, that's the journey we see a lot of work going on in AI.
For sure. The thing I also believe is decentralization, so that, or let's say personalization, that every use case is different, and the AI and computers are already capable of providing personal services for everybody.
We've always started the logic, going back to that logic point around PUDO. AI on the out-of-home is going to that use case, which is not something we're massively exploring at the moment, but where I see a lot of investment is, I should be on a checkout in Poland, in France, in Sweden, wherever it may be, and I should know real time. I should be driven by the carrier and the retailer knowing what they know about me to choose a delivery option which is optimized for cost and customer experience. So actually, instead of having a static position that home delivery is €4.95 and PUDO delivery is €3.95, depending on capacity, depending on route networking, depending on me as a consumer, depending on the time of year, depending on how full that locker is, all these different things, that should optimize that delivery cost. And maybe at some point it should be €5.95 for the locker and €2.95 for home. And then that should dramatically shift to €5.95 for home and €1 for the locker. And that sort of decision-making dynamic kind of has been like nirvana for 10 years since I've been in the space. But actually AI gives you the ability to really do it based on all of the data inputs that you can use to drive the adoption.
Absolutely. This is, again, to add a twist to that vision you just presented. I believe that soon we will have personal AIs every person will have one sitting and listening, and this AI knows that I will have a lunch with you in 3 days in restaurant, and behind that restaurant is a locker. The AI can retarget this exactly to that location because the price for that location is that day very low. So, absolutely,
exactly. The data and the inputs that are available when the AI models are big enough and clever enough to be able to interpret them, create like a kind of almost like an amazing futuristic vision of where this can get.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I think we can talk hours and hours about that, and it is still interesting, this for both of us.
Yeah, let's go for lunch.
Exactly. So thank you again, and I hope that we will have opportunities to have a chat soon in next conference or in real life somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great. Andre, lovely to speak to you again.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.